Well, hey there, my friend. Today's video is about my test drive with my gouache kit. This is my gouache station where I do my indoor work, the fun time, behind the curtain.
Think yourselves lucky that I'm giving you orders.
This is where I do it. But in today's video, I'm taking you outside. We are taking my Stay Wet gouache palette that I've been using for months in the studio. We're taking it for a test drive. We are on our way plein air painting to California. So in this video, I take you out on site with me as I paint this scene, plein air, testing gouache, testing brushes, and making a decision, do I like gouache plein air? So come on, join me on this journey. Let's go plein air painting with gouache.
Today we break away, forget our fear of what comes after.
Okay, I'm trying to decide about my composition. So what do I love? I love the cattails that are right here in this front area. So I want to make sure that I emphasize that. There's a little bit of water that goes back. I don't want a lot of sky because it's really a nothing sky. This is really about that beautiful area of cattails and the water. I'm using a watercolor pencil, blue. Hopefully it shows up on camera for you. It's a little tough. All right, I love this distance. There's a freeway back here. Not doing the freeway. All right, maybe I could do with a little less sky. Let's keep that at a minimum. Beautiful mountains back there looking towards the east. The ocean is behind me right now. I do love seeing maybe the tops of some of those trees, and maybe I'll just let the tops go out of the picture there. Beautiful shadows coming down. Oh my gosh. What I love about California is all the trees. I grew up here, and it's funny when you leave a place and you come back, you realize what you didn't appreciate. I mean, I did love painting trees back when I was a kid, but I guess I didn't appreciate what I had in front of me. There are some condos, houses, they will be suggested real loosely. I do want a gap here. Let's do some beautiful little palms, and then maybe we'll go off the picture there. So we get different shapes going. I don't want to get too crazy with these mountains. I don't want them to look too rocky. They're really not. Those are more easy slopes. These trees, don't want to stop them in the middle. Hope that you're able to see this. As they come down to this edge of the tops of this beautiful cattails. And there is a distant hill back here, spotted with trees and buildings. We're going to try to get that atmosphere in there. Darker. The warmth of the tops of all the cattails. There is a green area right here. The water. This beautiful stuff. This is what caught me when I drove up here, and this goes straight up in front. So yeah, I think this is a good start. Am I going to be able to pull it off? I don't know, you guys. this plein air. I'm going to go over how I set my plein air up. And, I think every time you go somewhere, it's going to be a little bit different depending on what you get set up where. So I'm in a parking lot. I like to stay at the back of my car for now. I'm still new to using gouache, so I'm trying to revamp some equipment that I already own. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start back here. I think I'm going to go ahead and get my values going. I'm going to push a little dark down here to give me a thought of my values, and then the blue of my mountain down here. I'll go over supplies later. Let's get painting. Very pale sky. White. I'm going to use a little bit of some cerulean. Okay, I may be calling these colors wrong, so we'll see as time goes on. Again, new at gouache, and I want a touch of pink, so I'm going to throw in a little bit of alizarin for right above those mountains. It's morning. I am in Oceanside, and I missed the name of where I turned in. It's some Audubon Society. I'll link it. Let's just get this going here. Ooh, beautiful colors. I'm not using very much water. Okay, I am not a transparent painter, like transparent thin layers. I'm pretty much a lay it on there and get that paint on there fairly thick. So I probably approach gouache a bit like I paint my oils, because I love it. So I don't work in thin transparent. That's not to say that I won't do a transparent wash ever here or there. And today, obviously, I'm just working on a white, kind of a cream color. This is a cheap sketchbook. I'll link it. But there's nothing expensive about this sketchbook. I'm trying a bunch of different ones, so I can tell you what I like. Let's keep that pretty pink at the horizon. I decided to go ahead and have a little bit of the blue peeking through here, and then let the trees go up. So when you're out on location, you redesign. Nothing is picture perfect, so to speak, that I know of. I have to constantly redesign what I'm looking at. I do want to see sky above this tree here. Those are they look to me like they're absolutely gorgeous eucalyptus trees way off in the distance. I did fall in love with eucalyptus trees when I lived in California, so I can't say that I didn't appreciate any of it. I just was very young. I left California when I was 28. But I'm in Arizona, so I still have plenty opportunities to come back, which I try to do. And I took that pink up too high. I don't want the pink up that high. So let's get that blue back up in there, up towards the top. Keep the pink down lower. It's sort of a haze. There's my color mixtures: the white, the cerulean blue, and a little alizarin for the sky. All right, now let's do that mountain. Yeah, I'm going to talk about my air color that I use in oils, and I've adapted it over into gouache somewhat. It's same recipe, so to speak. I will give the exact colors on the screen when I edit this, because I might call out something, but it is blue. Oh yeah, look at that. That's air color right there, my friend. It's white, blue, and red. I know it's ultramarine blue in the Winsor Newton gouache. So there is some beautiful shape out there. They do have a little bit of the rise and fall of the slope of the mountains. Yeah, I haven't figured out how to really show you my palette, so to speak. It's just not been an easy thing. Filming outdoors, painting, learning a new medium, all of that. My goodness, it's exhausting. But so the cerulean blue, the pink and the white and blue here. I love this palette. I'll talk about this little palette at another time. I think it's cerulean blue that I used up in the sky. Now, I know this is going to dry a little bit lighter. This is the learning curve with gouache, is that whole value change. If you let it make you crazy, it will. You just have to get working with it and see where it lands and then adapt and get used to those changes. I like the red in that, a little bit grayer when I started, a little bit more red back into that. I'll link my brushes as well. Everybody always wants to know. I want to know when I'm watching somebody. And we know that's going to dry lighter. I'm not seeing any mountain past that. If that's too dark, then I will come back in with the a lighter. I'm going to do it anyway right now. I just feel like I want that mountain lighter. So I picked up a little bit of white to put that on there. I'm going to lighten that just a hair. Just a little more white into it, like I started. Okay. So I'm going to go back up there and lighten that sky right now. A little more white. Let's just see if we can lighten that ever so slightly up here. And let some of that, it's a light blue. It's not white. I'm just going to mix a little bit of that in there. I may work to soften that edge in a little bit. That's the beauty of some of this. You can soften with gouache after it's dry. Let's establish a dark green down in the foreground. So this is an olive green. I can make a pretty good dark green using my olive green and this indigo. Then I usually am going to want to put a little red. So there's two reds here. Let's just use this red. I think it's Winsor red. Tone it down. Let's get this dark. I'm establishing some weight here. They'll get warmed up too, but just establishing some weight here along the dark edge so that there's something to work with. It's not a glaze, it's fairly thick paint. This is the Princeton Stroke Velvet Touch, a 1/4 inch brush. Really nice brush. Could probably picked up a little bit bigger one, but this is working. So let's just fly with it. I do know I want this to be fairly dark here because that beautiful cattails are going to all come up in front of this area. So let's make it a beautiful dark and maybe even a little bit of white and alizarin grayness into it as well. So I just took some white with a little bit of alizarin, and it's looking a little bit bluish because it's going into the green, which has indigo rolling in it there. And let's just play with this for a minute. Let's get some raw sienna up here. I think this is the very front area here. I do want a little bit of spots of warmth. I'm just throwing in some warmth. I'm not being overly concerned where. I just want a variety of color, and obviously some of this is going to drop down. Not quite so straight. It's uneven water edge. And some of that is going to hang over into the water. I'm going to use a bigger brush for that. Now, since I've got some greens mixed up, I'm just going to put in a solid mix back there. I'm going to use that dark green, but now I think I'm going to lighten it with a little bit of yellow ochre, keeping the blue, maybe a touch of white because of where it's sitting. Let's see. That needs more blue in it. That's too here. Let's just come up here. Suggest. Keeping this all pretty solid. I don't want to get too busy. I've not changed value nor color. Now I think I'll go a little bit more white into it. See if I can push it back a little bit. I'm going to use some of that air mixture too. See if we can push this back a little further. I see like a lot of alizarin in red, but for right now I'm just going to be very careful how warm I let that get. And there's a lot of trees out there. Let's see, so if that's the middle, I want to bring this down to about here. Why not? Now, I'm going to really push some darks in the front, so I'm going back into indigo and olive green, and let's throw a little bit of alizarin in there. So I want to be big shapes. Let's not get too worried about all those shadows. In order, I think what I could do is if I want to hit lights, I'll come back with that after I've developed this big shape. And if I put any buildings in, they'll just get spotted on and just laid in there. I'm trying to stay fairly abstract with this. Big strokes. As I reach this edge of the page, I'm going to keep all of that dark over there just to give me an idea of where the light is, because plein air, you do want to get your patterns. Let's just suggest a little bit here. So when the light changes, I've got my pattern of something that was getting more light. I think the buildings are going to be like back there. And again, one thing I have found with gouache in all my practice, and you can go too far with it. Sometimes it's hard to come back. Spontaneity to me is like worth gold. So you can go too far with it. I like all that right there. Let's just soften that. I'm going in with my olive green and indigo right now. And now I'm just kind of knocking back, softening a little bit, building a little interest. Let's break it. We don't have to have that solid light line back there. So yesterday I started a piece down at the harbor and it was looking really good, and then I just took it way stinking too far. I don't want to do that with this background. I had a pretty nice jetty going on with some really nice rock formations, and then I blew it. Now the next mountain back there, I'm going to push the air color, which is my white and my ultramarine blue and Windsor red and green. Taking my time so that I possibly get a design right now in the get-go that I like, and I do not have to go back there again. That would be wonderful. It's my goal. I mean, I'm not bothered by the drying time out here on location because I'm prepared for it. I'm not using any kind of medium. All I'm using is water. Let's keep the air color going back here. I've used washi tape. I've noticed on this sketchbook, I have to take it off very carefully. On a more expensive sketchbook, washi tape is the ticket. So I ended up almost in the middle. So I'm going to bring the darker over a little bit further because that's dividing equal areas, and I'm not a fan of that design. So back to my dark indigo, blue, and olive green, a touch of alizarin. Let's take this over a little bit further. I think that creates just a little bit better. I'm going to make sure I get this low enough so that I've got a good base for the cattails to come up on palm trees back there. So you can see this is the olive green, and I have them right next to one another in my palette on purpose. So that's what's mixing this green. And then the ochres, I have raw sienna and yellow ochre here, bringing them over. My graying agents, alizarin, my two reds. So I've kind of lined things up on purpose that way. All my blues, and I use this blue, ultramarine blue, a lot, so it's up in the corner. And Viridian down here for my cooler green, because I want to go down in temperature, so I've got my cooler green at the bottom. All right, I want to see what I can do to block in a big area to represent the cattails, which are a warm yellow. So I'm going to get out some raw sienna, and definitely white. And I want it to be grayed. It's a yellow. So if you think about violets, I think maybe alizarin could help it to be grayed a little bit more. Let's just see what that does. Again, I'm not using any medium. I'm just I don't use a lot of water. A little pasty, I think. Let's push it a tad bit darker, a little more alizarin, maybe just a tad bit less white, because when you see it maybe a little pasty, maybe you just need a little bit richer color. Now I can make a nice deep dark black, if you will, with ultramarine blue and the Windsor red with no white in it. I'm wanting to do kind of a mosaic here. I do have a spray bottle with me. Obviously you can see I really haven't sprayed quite yet. So this is my black. I'm using ultramarine blue and this red. It's just a deep dark warm or cool, depending on how much of one of the others that you put in it. Very shadowed down here. Using a little bit of dry brush as well, letting it, dry brush won't work if you get too much water. Picked up a little bit too much water there. I just want this to be a nice deep dark here. It's possibly some of that's too dark back there. Back to the warm tones. Then as that goes back further now, yeah, I'm going to jump into a little bit of air color here. Mix, and I'm always having to probably remix the air color, but this is cooler back here. As that starts getting a little bit further away, there's a little more coolness to it. And I'll pull a little bit of warmth back over the top of that where I want it. It's covered. We know warmer is closer, right? So we want to really accentuate that. Get rid of the holidays. Got a little bit of white canvas hanging out here. Now the water is very green with blue reflections. Some ultramarine blue. I think I'm going to use this red, and it's going to lighten. Remember this, it's going to lighten on us. I want to be dark to start, so I've got something to work with when it comes to this water. I'm being a little bit bold, but I think it could work. You know, there's really a lot of that dark green up at this edge. Let's get some beautiful blue going. I'm going to go back to my air color again. You know what that is. Ultramarine blue, white, red. White, darker with it. That's better. I think the further back we go, there's a little bit more blue. I'm learning, you guys. So you're kind of on this journey with me. I'm not at all embarrassed to say so, because I feel like our painting journey is a lifetime thing, and we learn from each other. The wind is kind of blowing that water, so there's not really any still reflections or real prominent reflections. I'm just going to play with this back and forth between my dark green and the air color and see if I can get a feeling of this water. Of course, water sometimes gets real rich when you're up close to it. It all depends on what's happening with the wind. But I'm going to darken this. I grabbed some ultramarine blue because I do want this very front area to be really rich, and probably leaning to make sure that I've got some beautiful darks because I want to have fun with the cattails. Now we've got those cattails up close. You can smudge if you do it quick enough with your finger. You know, I'm kind of partial to finger painting. Now, I'm going to come back with some brighter blues, but not there yet. Now, I'll tell you one thing that you can do. With a brush that's just been cleaned out in water, I do like to come back, and there's no real wet water on this, it's moist, and reactivate those back edges. Just reactivate it. Breaking that. Lovely, 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 lovely. I think so. I think it's working. I'm okay with that. Let's not mess with that. I've gone a little high with some of those upward strokes for as far out there as that is. This is the beauty of just a little moist brush. So there will be some light. I think we'll pick and choose what we do back here because, listen, you got to pick and choose what's the most important thing, and I was drawn right here. I like the whole scene, don't get me wrong, but what are you going to say? What is there to be said here? That's what you got to pick and choose. So the further back you go, you're going to keep things a little more horizontal. Pushing it back, keep things horizontal as we go back, helps things to lay down. And then when we get closer, that's our opportunity to pull up and design. Now I'm just using a little bit of the ochre color, grayed down just a little bit because I want distance in some of this. Keeping all of that a little horizontal as we go back. It's actually fairly straight, and I'm a little, excuse me, low here. I'm going to raise that because that's bugging me. It's easy enough to do because really we want to keep this back edge fairly soft and quiet, especially where it's going off right there. Let's see what that looks like when that dries. Okay, we've got the dark green. A little bit in love with this round brush. This is the round number 6 Princeton Snap. It's called the Snap by Princeton. It's a round number 6. Kind of partial to it. Let's come in here with some warm tones. I'm going to use some raw sienna and alizarin. First thing I want to do is I do want darks under here, and I'm starting with this upward stroke. I want this upward stroke to be prevalent, to give me something rich under there to work with. I haven't used any permanent green light yet. I'm going to throw a little bit of that in. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. I like that permanent green light. I've said this, I think, in another video, but I liken that permanent green light to my phthalo yellow green in oils. Now I can already start developing, even though those cattails are more ochre, I'm going to give myself just a little bit of something to lead me. Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I like this color. We need some of this along the base over there, too. That's nice. Getting overexcited here. Killing some of the white. So we've got dark to work on. So I'm using ochre with some of my red. And then my black disappeared over here, which is blue and red. Blue and red. What's that look like? It's going to dry lighter, remember. Strokes are a little bit too big right there. Okay, now I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going with this. I want to think about the light. Just a wet brush right now, softening some of that. I am going to come in with a thinner brush there. Okay, so if I'm going to have light here, then some light here, and maybe we'll run a light back there. I think that could be pretty. So let's get out a rigger brush. There is one on the list. It's not the same brand as this. I've had these forever. These were by Winsor Newton. You cannot get them anymore, but there's a good one on my supply list that works as well too. With my my Princeton Velvet Touch stroke brush, and maybe just see about the thought of light through here. And maybe we're going to have something back here. I'll have to cut that back down. I'm just thinking out loud, here to here to, maybe we'll sparkle something up there on the edge of a tree. There's a lot of light out there now. There is some green in there. I'm going to come back with that green. I'm kind of trying to not get too frilly, but maybe get some larger light masses. Sometimes I almost like to dip my brush into water to reactivate some of that. Occasionally when you use this spray bottle, you just get too much water. Okay, get some little strokes with this brush. I don't want it to be too, sometimes you can get amateur looking with the small brush, so it's just to try different things. Now the stroke has gotten a little bit big on me there. Let's work on the cattails. Let me knock this back. I'm just going to jump in there with some pretty bold light strokes and see what I can do. I use quite a bit of water to soupy this up. Maybe I'll lay my brush a little bit heavier for a little bit of thickness to some right here, and I'll probably come back with dark. Now here's the thing, if you get a runaway, you can always come back. I just want to suggest that this is going on over here, but I don't want to get too overdone with it. I can always work my way back out of this, covering it up. Beauty of this gouache. And I'm going to come back with some darks too. I'm not done with that water yet either. that real dark green, the indigo blue, and the olive green. Not too much on my brush there. It's just a back and forth. I want to get some nice green now in this area. So I'm going to use my permanent green light and liven this up just a little bit into that dark. Bring this up. I do have reflections to put in the water still. I'm just out here having fun, all right? And again, I'm telling you, as I'm taking you through this, I'm experimenting with some things here. And I wasn't real happy with all of that. So the beauty of this medium is you just come back in and scary, really tall and straight. Not all of them lean over. I can't see what the tops of them look like. I don't think there's anything on the top of them. I'm guessing they're cattails. I'm gonna have to inquire. Probably should have put my blue on my water, but I didn't. Beat me up too bad for that one. I'm going to use my rigger brush. It's very heavy on the left. Yep, gotta do ultramarine. Don't like that cobalt. Let's do a little bit of ultramarine and a touch of alizarin. Not a fan of that cobalt working there. The wind is blowing some light across here, or I mean reflection is happening across here right now out there. Maybe we want to be just a little bit more broad with that. All right. You can see what I'm doing is simplifying. Maybe got a little too much that I don't like right here. Maybe pull back a little bit of some negative shapes back in there. Kind of wish I hadn't gotten this right here quite so busy. So maybe I can just come back in. This is where I said when you take it too far with gouache, I find it a bit of a challenge to like fix it. I'm gonna do it in front of you right here, right now, because I want this to be a less is more area. And I might mess this up totally. We'll see. But this is a learning project. All right, this is what it's all about. Let's get the watercolor back in there so I can simplify this a little bit. So this is where I said you can fix some things. So I'm gonna see if I can. Just was not all that content with some of that. And we can come in with some water, I think. Maybe rectify it or run it. I don't think we'll run it, but I just want to see a little bit more variation there. I like that straight one. There's a real straight one going completely out of the cattails, going straight across, but said a little bit more than I needed to say. Yeah, I think maybe this could be helping. We'll see. I'm maybe going to redesign this. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. What if this is a little area out there by itself so we don't have just one big, nice. That's going to be better. Okay. Lesson, don't be afraid to go back in at the risk of thinking, what if I run it? Okay, what if you do? So what? What if you learn something and you make it better? So I like that. So now how can I just be very simple and not get overdone here? So what if I just have a little bit of a dark, warm, to represent a little bit of earthy look. Keep them small. A little bit of green. I gotta plant the big ones here. They've got to be planted from something. Because I moved that. And I'm not gonna get rid of them. So we're just gonna have to plant them a little bit here. And we don't want to have a runaway again. Okay, and what if we put one of these big ones up in front of this one that I shot across? And then I'm going to get some pretty green. Push a little bit of light right back here. I've been here I think it's been 2 hours. I feel like maybe we need a little bit of detail over there. Okay, so close. So close. So I don't want this white here. I'm going to go more of a darker ochre color on the edge on purpose, so that I don't pull the eye off over here. But I do want to finish this just ever so slightly. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's let this hang down. They're doing that out there. They're hanging down in the water edge. Matter of fact, I need a little more of that. Just break that up. I'm going to mix a little bit of some alizarin, a little bit of a green. There's kind of a dusty rose. Not be too perfect with these. So if they're coming down in the water, maybe I might want to play just a slight ripple around it. Okay, you guys, do you know how long you could go on with this? How long could we go on here? Now I'm thinking about a little bit of pretty There's ducks out there. I'm not doing them. I took pictures. Why not? What if, one last thing, what if I took some white and yellow, a little bit gray, what if I just barely nicked the top? Not every single one, but just dot, 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 boom. Looked at the camera and got that spot kind of big right there. A little bit brighter just on the tops. I know what I need. Warm. A little bit more warmth in some of these. That's better. Warming them up ever so slightly. This one's not sticking as bad as yesterday. So when you put washi tape on any of these books, pull the piece of tape off and run it against your clothing like you're using it as a lint. You know, the piece of tape like you're using as a lint collector on your shirt or your pants. So it kills a little bit of the stickiness better. Did not tear like yesterday. So I'm using the fly on the wall here. You can see my palette. It gets pretty dirty. I do get some of my colors dirty. I will talk about this palette when I'm back in the studio. I've got to get out of here because they're going to have an event started. This is the Fly on the Wall by Joshua Bean. I used it for oils when I go teaching, but I have found it's working pretty good for gouache. There is that finished piece. I'm down here in my car. I have my water container. You know, I'd use a wash rag for wiping out. I did use some little magnet clips just so if I get kind of wild, that doesn't get flipped off. I just set this up on a plastic container right now in my car, but the other day I was using it with my easel and tripod. There is a little adapter that comes with the Joshua Bean fly on the wall that you can hook on. So there is the scene out there. All right, I hope you enjoyed this plein air piece. As you watched me find my way with it, it's all a learning process.
Times like these, they come and go, so let this feeling grow. Finally see what we've always known.